Hello, and welcome to Midweek with Meaning. Please say hi as you're coming in and let us know where you're watching from. I am Angela Ward. I'm a registered nurse and soul midwife and the CEO of Guardian at the Gateway, where we help you to journey within and return renewed. In this season, as we are moving through the darkest time of the year and harvesting that little ember of light, I am just honored to have a very special guest with us today. We are going to be talking with Dr. Kate today. I wanted to tell you, Dr. Kate, drawing from naturopathic medicine and compassionate inquiry, Dr. Kate seeks to create a safe place to be seen, heard, and valued, and to help people reconnect with the truth of who they are. Totally vibing with what I am doing here at Guardian at the Gateway, awakening that spark and inner healing wisdom. Dr. Kate's mission is to serve humanity and to provide nourishment, community, and a safe place to heal. So please help me welcome Dr. Kate. Here she is. Hello, Dr. Kate.
Hi, Angela. I'm so excited to be here.
I love it. I'm so glad to see you here. I know we have a lot to talk about, and we were going to discuss shining like the sun. Ooh. Are you, first of all, before we start, what drew you to this path of inquiry and this compassion and naturopathic medicine?
Oh, well, my story into my professional life is kind of boundaried by those divine moments. I was in just a basic health program in university, and some coursework got kind of messed up. I don't know really what happened. So I went into a stream of psychology, actually, and by the time third year rolled around, I was like, I still have no idea what I'm going to do with these years that I've been in academics. So a friend of mine, a really close friend, we've been friends since kindergarten, she said, "Oh, I just went to this naturopathic doctor, and she reminded me so much of you. Like, do you know about naturopathic medicine?" And I said, "I have no idea about naturopathic medicine." And so I started to explore, and then I started to see a naturopathic doctor the first one ever, who was in our work with Adele, one of the other NDs there, Nadia. And she's the very first person that kind of got me onto a path of connecting mind and body and the importance of looking at the whole person and the root causes of where we can get a bit sidetracked and have these obstacles to well-being. So it's sort of this marriage between natural medicine, naturopathic medicine, and psychology that after about 15 years or 12 years being as a clinician, just working one-on-one with people, I discovered the work of Gabor Mate, and that just sort of opened a whole other can of worms. And since then, I've really kind of done this deep dive into self-compassion and the immense benefits that we can provide ourselves with that sense of self-compassion, but also the expansion energetically from the heart center and how protective that is through times of difficult emotions, global pandemic, all the things that we find ourselves as, really spiritual beings having this human experience, and it can be messy at times. And so self-compassion, I've come to recognize it as a bit of a lighthouse, and that it allows you to see yourself, and providing that safe container of connection to yourself supports the connection to those around you, and kind of ignites that inner light, that source love that touches every cell in our body. We have to know how to work it.
Yeah. And I think that this time of year gets really challenging for people, even when we're not in the midst of a pandemic. Just both of us being in North America, the northern norths of North America, the darkness of this season can be really challenging to keep that spark and that light going. Can you tell us a bit about how we might do that?
Yes, I certainly can. I'm going to kind of tackle this from both like a physical well-being perspective, but also looking at the emotional side, the spiritual side, and try to connect the dots really between those two. Um, and I just want to add that this time of year, like the winter solstice is like the summer solstice is probably one of my favorite times of year. And I have this really close friend that he and I get sort of excited about, like, oh, we're going to get like one more minute of dark or of light next week. And then it's another minute and another minute. And so it's like you're grasping for this, one of those lifelines to kind of pull the light back to.
Yes. Yes, I love it. I'm so excited to talk about this because I feel the same way. Although I also recognize the importance of allowing the darkness to envelope me and release some of those things back into recycling in a way. For anyone that's watching, we are going to be taking questions at the end. So please put them in the chat and we will make sure to get to them. But are you ready? Would you like me to pull your slides up for you?
Yeah, sure.
Let's do it. All right, let's go.
All right. So is that okay?
How about that?
Oh, that's good. Good. And can I move them on my own?
Yes, I believe you can.
Okay, that's great.
Hey, everyone, make sure you have your notepad out. You're ready to take notes. I should probably get my notepad out too. Let's do this.
Okay, so let's talk about shining like the sun. The word shine for me in the last 3 months has been like this cardinal. It's just, I keep seeing it in textbooks. I keep seeing it everywhere or hearing it. So this is maybe my word for 2021 is the courage to shine, to devote moments in our days to really turn to what's real and authentic and true for us so that we can let that inner expression, like our unique blueprint, like really let it shine. So we're going to talk about how to do that. And I have so many metaphors for inner light. And we could kind of touch on them, but you might want to, as we're going through this conversation, really reflect on some key words of metaphors that you can apply to this idea of inner light. So for myself, I really think of this light as something that wakes up our vitality. It's a part of us, much like a young child, where we want to nurture and nourish and care for this light in a way that it gets everything that it needs to flourish. And we might think of that as self-love or self-compassion, but when we offer that sense of wholeness to ourselves, that love really ignites that light. So here are some key words that might come to mind. We've got vitality, it's the inner spark, a pilot light, your truth, your heart's wisdom, source, inner guidance system, inner child, or just plain old love, right? Not that love is really plain, but it's just that sense of warmth, right, in your heart center. And it's like Angela was saying, it's such a great time to be talking about our inner light because the winter solstice is sort of this portal of energy where we can turn to the light, but also honor the darkness. So this is a metaphorical time energetically where we are drawn inward. We're asked to sort of let go and reflect on what is no longer serving us. And that can mean looking at our shadows, looking at difficult emotions, noticing where they sit in your body, any tensions, any points of contraction where you just really feel heavy. The light that we all carry can illuminate those spaces that are calling for your expansion. They're really calling you in to kind of look at them, and that darkness becomes a point of growth and transformation. So we can't talk about light without talking about darkness. These are the yin and yang of our natural world, and being able to hold kind of the complexity of that duality is really important to our well-being. And I also like to acknowledge that the light within, our inner light, that source of love, it never goes dim. It's always there. It's always bright from the moment we are born. It's there. It gets covered up. We have obstacles and barriers that we can experience a time where we kind of forget that we have this sense of source love right inside of us at any moment. So we're going to talk about some of those barriers and how to overcome them. So physically, we can draw on two sort of Eastern philosophies of medicine, both Ayurvedic and traditional Chinese medicine. And there's a lot of overlap. So I hope kind of as I speak, you can connect some of the dots between the two. They're not these two distinct forms of Eastern philosophy. There's a lot of overlap between the knowledge and the kind of the ancient wisdom. So there's two things that we can do to support our bodies during the winter, to support our immune system and keep that robustness alive. So if we look at the Ayurvedic tradition, in Ayurveda, they talk about the Ojas. And it looks like Ojas, but I think the pronunciation is Ojas. And this is our sustainable energy. So you think of it like a container within your body that holds this abundant energy. It's like a soft shield that is going to protect you from negative energy. It's going to protect you from both physical and psychic pathogens. So, we could talk about viruses or bacteria or parasites, negative information that we're, kind of blasted with all the time. When we have strong ojas, we can withstand and adapt and kind of flex through all the ways that some of the negativity around us can pull us away from that inner light. So think of ojas as a way to be impervious to negativity. It's this strong sort of groundedness, an energy reserve of the body, and we can build it up, and we also have to be conscious of what depletes it. Mm-hmm. So it's this soft shield to ward off stress. So in my mind, I kind of, if I put my arms out, if you put your arms out in front of you and kind of do a circle around your body, up and down, that's right. We might even call that the auric field, but, I think it's all connecting the dots. They probably all mean the same thing, but we need a soft shield, nothing too rigid. We want to be able to flex and adapt through the obstacles that life presents us. So Ojas and Wei Chi. Wei Chi comes from the tradition of Chinese medicine. And this is also seen as a protective energy, but an external energy. And it comes from the organ of the lungs and the skin. And the Wei Chi is, in traditional Chinese medicine, like our immune system. In Ayurvedic, the Ojas is the immune system. The Wei Chi is nourished by air, it's nourished by the food we eat, and it's nourished by sleep and joy. To strengthen Ojas, we also have to pay attention to pauses and rest and self-care. Those are the things that are going to build up the Ojas and the Wei Chi. So the overlap kind of between the two, I think, yeah, I'll just keep talking. The overlap between the two, when we look at nutrition, for example, we want to nourish the body with the foods that are in season. So a healthy diet that is rich with that life force. So I'll use the word prana because it tells us that there's life infused in that food. And those are foods that are going to tend to our digestive fire. So that's the seasonal eating. And in North America, we generally have 4 seasons. Some are longer than others. I'm in one of the eastern part of Canada, and here we can have about a good 6 months of it being kind of damp and cold. So in that type of climate, you want to turn to foods that are warming, foods that in our natural environment we would have stored, like root vegetables, things like sweet potatoes and carrots and beets. And then we bring in some of the warming spices like ginger, cardamom to kind of enliven some of those foods with some warmth. And that's going to keep the digestive fire stoked. And that's going to infuse the rest of our bodies and every cell in our body with this sense of vitality. So nutrition is going to be one way that we can build that ojas. And then we want to be conscious about not losing this vitality. And what can get in the way is overwork, being overstimulated, and poor sleep. And sometimes the sleep need is a thing people need to play around with and work with. It's not just cut and dry. Sometimes there are other obstacles that affect a person's ability to sleep well. And that's probably a whole other conversation, but just to know for the purpose of this inner light, sleep is really important. And doing what you can to sort of nurture those routines around your nighttime cycles and your daytime cycles. And so if you think of just how we live now in sort of this distracted sort of way, a lot of our senses are become overstimulated. We're kind of pulled out of our bodies from a oversensory experience. And if we can turn inward, and that's sort of the benefit of having this conversation in winter, is that the darkness gives us, and the cold climate, it gives us a kind of natural opportunity to turn inward and pull in from a lot of those distractions. And it's the distractions that leak our vital energy. So whether you're kind of wrapped up into the internet and being on the screen a lot and our phones and just all the things that pull our attention away, those are all overstimulated experiences that are going to deplete and drain your ojas. So that overstimulated, even coffee, even watching too much television. So we just want to rein it in. We want to use this time which is a natural yin time, a really grounded yin time, to pull in and just look at how we're spending our time and where energy is being leaked, and really evaluate, what do I have control over here? What can I change? What kind of solutions can I come up with to keep my energy a little closer to my body? From this traditional Chinese medicine, just kind of circling back to Wei Chi, again, you want to think of it like this protective energy around your body, a shield that is going to nourish every part of your body, both your mind and your spirit. So in traditional Chinese medicine, we focus on joy and in terms of really benefiting that Wei Chi. So you want to think about what's thriving in your life, what like really ignites this sense of joy and lightness of being. And despite perhaps difficulty, being able to turn to that, going back to that idea of it's the duality. We can have difficult emotions and joy can exist kind of all in the same 5 minutes, right? So turning towards what is really near and dear to your heart, what turns on that inner light. Every morning when we wake up, we have this divine responsibility to turn the light on. It may flicker sometimes, depending on what energy is being pulled away from us, but we ultimately, each and every one of us, has control over that light switch. And we can wake up in the day and acknowledge the difficulty and turn to joy. Acknowledge the challenges, turn to joy. And each time you turn to joy, you're flicking the light back on. The light is there to help you see your shadow and help you see what's taking up a lot of your emotional energy. And so that brings us to, talk about one other strategy to benefit and support and supplement your Wei Chi and your Ojas is emotional regulation. Being able to see the shadows, see the pain, see the sadness, feel it in your body, and tend to it. And that offers some self-compassion of tending to it, seeing it, recognizing it, and giving it the space to move through. And we can kind of see where the supportive strategies of nutrition really will build the body to this ability to have the resilience to being able to sit with the difficulty, right? Sometimes we get not distracted out of the difficult emotions, but they're uncomfortable, right? And so we can find all kinds of different ways to just not even want to tend to it in the first place. When we look at supporting these energies of the body, we have a container, a really grounded shield and container in which to kind of go back and pick apart that pain in a way that isn't as overwhelming. So that's where, when I've been thinking about kind of being into this talk today, I see self-compassion as being the charge for the inner light. Much like, I don't know, we probably have all those devices that have rechargeable batteries. So self-compassion is the rechargeable battery. You plug into self-compassion and you have mindfulness, you have common humanity, and self-kindness. And that's, coming from the work of Kristen Neff. She's one of the lead researchers in the science and evidence of self-compassion and the benefits that it provides to our bodies and our minds. But self-compassion in its own right provides that container as a buffer so that you can sit with the difficulty, you can sit with the darkness and not let it overwhelm you and take you out of the experience. So these are sort of my short list of how we can shine like the sun. It's being radically self-honest, really looking at, like I said a moment ago, picking apart your pain, looking at it from a lens of love and honoring that darkness is part of all of us, and it's nothing to be afraid or ashamed of. It's developing these devotional practices to be able to honor the triggers and honor our challenges and our discomfort as portals into growth and transformation. Mm-hmm. Living with reverence, right? This kind of touches on turning to joy and focusing on what's thriving. When we can pull ourselves into that energy, and I don't mean that you have to stay there, like this is an ebb and flow experience, but when we can turn to the beauty and awe of nature and know that in this time of winter, the seeds are all dormant, everything is underground, it's all laying under this blanket of darkness, and it's preparing itself for this building of new life. And that's what we're energizing ourselves forward into the spring. That's what gets us through, at least here in Canada. We know the sun's coming at some point. Every day I remind myself the sun is shining somewhere. It's very overcast, but I know above those clouds, the sun actually is there. So you can allow your energy and your visualization to drift up into those ethers to know that the sun is shining. Look at what we can turn to as the days become now a little longer. We're edging into that time of a little bit here, a little bit there, and soon enough, we will have the information that we need to know, okay, spring is now here. And when we turn to nature, we see that reverence and that life that's just always available to us. We can kind of work our inner world to cultivate this ability to self-reflect and then course correct. And self-reflection in winter, in that yin grounded time, it's the time that our natural rhythms is giving us to turn inward and to look at what's working, what's not working, and focus on the solutions. So that's the self-correction, kind of looking at where do I need to grow and what are these difficult emotions showing me they can be a bit of a compass to show you where you need to grow next. Meditation is bringing in those yin activities, the inward reflection, the ability to see yourself and sit with the difficulties and the tension, and turning to a sense of light and love. And then that inner light, as it represents our inner truth, and being devoted to kind of uncovering that inner truth and living in service to that truth, allowing your light to shine. I'm sure at some point or another, we've all been conditioned to dim that light, and that it's not polite, or there can be beliefs around, I'm not worthy to shine my light. We can get into comparative suffering. Look how she's shining her light. I can't do that. I might as well just not shine mine. So these are all points of reflection, all little needles of the compass, inviting you to really look at what can you bring compassion to soften out of love, to soften out of self-care, and just allow it to kind of dissipate as these seasons change. Getting that light kind of revved up for the newness that all the next seasons are going to bring, both just in our natural world, but in our seasons of life as well.
Mm. Yes.
That was a lot faster than I
Oh my gosh. There's so many things. I took so many notes. So for those of you watching, if you have some questions, please pop them in the chat and we will get to them. But oh my gosh, I'm going to have to go backwards here. I really appreciated that statement of comparative suffering. Whew. I've always said it's not a competition. This is not a competition.
Right.
Truly.
Your suffering is no bigger than mine. It might, the circumstances can look to our minds, just kind of look like, oh my God, my heart breaks for the things that happen. But pain is pain.
Pain is pain. And, I love that you were talking about that too, with the resiliency component. And as a former doula and a labor and delivery nurse, we always would say, pain is only pain until you bring the suffering component in. It is one of just the qualities of the human experience. And not saying that it's a great thing necessarily, but it is only that. And it can suck, but we are resilient. And I think this is such a great overview of ways that we might build that resilience even more. One thing you said that I would love to know a bit more about was when we were talking about honoring that darkness. And you mentioned this darkness is a space where we can develop, these are portals to growth and transformation. And you mentioned some devotional practices. You said devotional practices. So I'd love to know a little bit more about what that means to you as far as a devotional practice.
Oh yeah, that's a good question. I think for me, the devotional practices are um, like both like daily meditation, like and yoga. And I'm speaking from a personal experience now.
Mhm.
Um, Devotional practice. It's an intuitive sort of, asking yourself what is it that you need. And
Mhm.
so a devotional practice, it could be boiling your hot water and tea in the morning and really like putting reverence into the tea, into just the experience of now that's nourishing my body, it's stoking that digestive fire. It could be a walk in nature, and sort of kind of looking at the awe and wonderment around you. A devotional practice could be inner child work, where like sitting with that younger part and honoring the um, the hurt and the belief systems that that young part is carrying around that then comes out in adult life.
Yeah.
So the self compassion practices, I tend to see many things along a spectrum. So devotional practices can be anything where you nurture and support your physical body, all the way to your spirit, your soul. Going to church could be a devotional practice. Pulling out one of your, I've got a couple of devotional type books that I use in the morning that are based on Course in Miracles, and I kind of use that to ground the energy of my day. But it's tending to yourself.
Yeah, I love this. I think what's so great about that language around a devotional practice is there's many people, including myself, I'm sure you too, where we have moments where it becomes a bit of a chore to do these. They're like on a checklist of should. And shifting that mindset to it being devotional, it speaks to that, what you said about living in honor of your truth, like that
Hmm.
key inner truth. And it's really connected to that divine place within us.
Yeah.
And the devotional practice is what nourishes us. It makes it, for me, feels more uh, wanted to say enticing. Maybe that is the word I want, but it seems a little easier when it comes from a place of service to self.
That's a beautiful way to say it. Service to self. Absolutely. I
Yeah, instead
like
of
that. I gotta write that down.
I wrote all the pages of dance stuff already, so you can take one of my things, which I'm sure.
Service to self.
I okay, a couple other questions I had. Oh gosh, so many things. I love what you said about it is our divine responsibility to turn the light on every day,
Every
which
day.
is kind of speaking to this
Mhm.
devotional practice idea. Um, and you talked about acknowledging the challenges and suffering and returning to joy.
Mhm.
So, a couple of questions here. How do we access joy in difficult times? And I understand part of this might be the devotional practice, but uh, with your experience with Gabor Mate and that perspective, like trauma can just be such a flooded, overwhelming place where people are living. And it's, I know we're not asking people to spiritually bypass and just, pretend
No.
like things are great. How does one work with this shadow, like titrate their ability to tap into the pain or the difficult places and continue to turn to joy? Could you speak to that a
Mhm.
little more?
Sure. Sure. And actually, and I don't know if this is the place for it, but I could do a little bit of a practice
Yes, this
to
is
try to
the for
connect
it.
with it.
Heck
Okay.
yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's
Okay.
do it.
All
Yeah.
right. So this is sort of an outline of how one would connect with their ojas,
Okay.
but it speaks to just to give a more answer to your question before we dive in. It's it's holding the tension in the body, so that place of constriction where trauma can sit. It may be in it can change throughout the body, but trauma is held in the body. So the part of the emotional experience is held there in the cells, in the tissues. And when we can invite compassion into that space, and the science will show that compassion on brain scans will light up the reward centers of the brain, whereas emotional pain lights up the pain centers of the brain. And when we bring compassion to pain, emotional pain, it's that buffer. It's that you're igniting the reward centers of the brain, so it actually feels good. You've got part of you that it's like, okay, this compassion piece feels good, and it's so what I then kind of try to compute that into my human brain. It's like you're hugging the pain, and when we have a hug and we have the neurotransmitters that come from those reward circuits of the brain, the bodily response, what happens in your nervous system is there's less overwhelm. So to bring in the joy piece, the joy, even if it's that you can sense that, the like right now I look out the window and the grass is green. So I may be able to say, okay, that's my place of joy. Right? I see some color out there. It's not all gray. It could be that, like, my heart's beating. You can really reflect on just the bodily experiences of what might be thriving. So sometimes it can be a grasp, right? And maybe the thing that is thriving is the fact that your heart's beating today. The blood is pumping and you have another day to appreciate your aliveness.
I like that bodily experience of what is thriving.
Yeah, so bringing it into the body can be for some that might not be a safe experience, but it may, for others who kind of need to reach for joy a little bit, it may be that they can use their physical body as a bit of a channel or a vessel to look at what's thriving, because our minds are very good at finding things outside of us that are just wrong.
Absolutely. I love that idea. For someone who may, for accessing their bodily experiences is a little overwhelming because of trauma or whatever.
Sure.
What are some other approaches to notice what's thriving? You mentioned looking out the window and seeing green grass, or
yeah, that was a real in the moment, like, oh, it's green out there, amazing.
Yeah. Would that be a way that you recommend that they look out to an external place?
Yeah, I think it can be both internal or external, looking for what's thriving. I don't know if anyone in your audience is familiar with Abraham Hicks, but they do this appreciation game where you're looking to building on the energy of the next good thought. So if I start with, oh, the grass is green today, we're not surrounded by blankets of snow. Okay, then I pull in, there's a cardinal in the tree right now. That makes me feel good. Then I look at, I've got this clean water sitting on my desk. I'm really appreciating that clean water because I've got a tickle in my throat. And I'm on this live stream. I'm really happy that there's clean water right on my desk. I'm having this conversation with you that feels really good. And so you just keep pulling it in, keep pulling it in. It's like a present moment experience. So you can look at your senses. You can look at what you're seeing and what you're hearing, what you're tasting, what you're feeling on your skin, and inviting that sense of appreciation and gratitude, which is just going to kind of clear the path to, okay, these are the things that are thriving right now in this moment.
I love that. I love it. I think that's a beautiful practice. Is there a little exercise you wanted us to try?
Yes. Yeah, I think that'd be really great.
Let's do it.
Okay. So wherever you are right now, just get your body comfy and close your eyes if that feels okay for you. And start to take a few deep breaths. Just let your body settle, relax for a minute, allowing your breath to just deepen, let it smooth out, and just really come into this present moment. And slowly start to draw your attention away from your thoughts, away from your thinking, away from your aches, away from your emotions, and drop down into your belly. Drop down right into your solar plexus, holding your attention there until you feel a sensation in your solar plexus. And you're not looking for any particular sensation, you're just looking for an awareness that your energy is now down in your belly and in your solar plexus. And just hold it there for a moment. And then slowly bring that energy from your solar plexus, and now bring the energy and the awareness up to your heart. You might even feel like you want to place your hands over your heart to sort of ground that sense of space and awareness. Bring that sensation to your heart, warmth. Imagine your heart beating, the blood pumping through all the different chambers of your heart. And bring to mind a moment in your life where you felt very deep love. And I'll just give you a moment of silence to really invite a time in your life where you felt very deep love. This might be a birth of your child, or being hugged. You can remember being hugged by your parent. Or maybe you sense that deep love when you're in generosity and kindness and in service to others or in those in need. Maybe it was even a time where you let yourself be totally vulnerable. You just really opened your heart to experience deep love. When you invite love and joy and bring it as a point of focus that builds your Wei Chi, it builds your Ojas, builds your immune system. Allow that moment of deep love to really envelop your mind. And notice where you feel that love in your body. The sensations that you feel in your body when you really sit in this experience of deep love. Allow this sensation to move, to expand, and then touch every cell in your body. Let that energy of love expand into every crevice, every part of your body. You're allowing that feeling to grow. You're recharging your batteries of light And that powers you to stay strong, to stay calm, even in the face of heartache and change. And you can just let yourself really relax in this container of love. And just notice how you can come in and out of the feeling. It might be there, it feels powerful, and then it wanes a bit. You can always refocus that experience and that strength to recharge those batteries and keep the inner light, keep it shining. We are meant to shine. And then just take a nice deep inhale. Bring yourself back to this space together. Thank and honor yourself for really taking the time to sit in that connection.
Wow.
That built your ojas.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you for that. That felt so sweet. Such a sweetness there. It seems so simple, and yet how we get so distracted and pulled in so many different directions.
I know.
I would still like to put one more call out for questions, and I have another question or two. And I think you kind of answered it with this exercise, but I recognize that we are in a season that really asks for connection, and I'm noticing, I think, because of the last couple
How long is it? I think it's 19 months. I did the math once.
Is it 19 months? Like I'm seeing and sensing it within myself and also within my own clients, this kind of urge to connect. Like, we have to get out there because we didn't get out there. So now it's the holidays and we have to like make these connections happen. And I'm seeing people still having this kind of tension pulling outward and obligation. So how do we balance that? Well, we have this season that's that inward pull.
Right.
So there's like, and I think one of these is definitely this practice. But I'd love to hear your thoughts about that as well.
Yeah, there's a lot there. Because connection it's part of our human experience. Like it's so important, but positive connection is the thing that is going to build our ability to adapt and flex, right? When we're talking about obligatory connection, that's depleting. It's one of those things that's going to suck your joy and suck your life force. And so from that space, we're more apt to become sick or be, a low mood, like kind of depressed or anxious, because we don't have that container of the soft shield.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that when there's this sense of like, oh, we need to connect and we need to do all the things, it's an opportunity to check in and ask your own self. This is part of staying connected to your inner light. What is it that I need? What would benefit my mind, body, and spirit in relationship? Does that feel good? Does it not feel good? And trying our best to honor when it doesn't, when it isn't in alignment, and it's going to like make that light like flicker a little bit.
Mm-hmm. That's really good. Yeah. And I think it's a bit of a learning process, right? Like, how much can we move into this, and when does it start being more depleting for us, and revisiting that. Dr. Kate, I love everything you shared with
Oh,
us today. I feel like there's so much more we could talk about,
I know.
but I think we might want to start wrapping up.
You
But
bet.
as is tradition in Midweek with Meaning, I love to draw a card to see what insight or what the cards might say around our topic. Yes, consult the oracle because it's fun for me. It brings joy, and I think it's kind of fun just to see what else is out there. I'm going to be using the Spirit Animal Oracle today, and I love this deck because it's quite simple. But I'm going to pull one, and I would love to just see what it inspires from you in relationship to what we're talking about. So, give me a second here. Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be today? This is one of my favorite decks, by the way. Who wants to jump out? I think that's going to be this one. Today, we have Lizard Spirit.
Oh, golly.
And at the bottom it says, dream the world into being.
Whoa.
So
Pull it in.
pull it in. Dream the world into being. So yeah, what you got to say about that?
Oh, pull the world into being. No, what was that? Pull the dream.
Dream the
Yeah,
world into being.
pull the dream world into being. Well, that's our joy,
Yeah.
right? Because we can't always like see it. It might be just something we are have in our field of desire, and
Mm-hmm.
so we need to invite that in. That it's okay to give ourselves permission to turn the light on,
Yes.
to be in our state of joy, because that's ultimately what is going to heal our world and our fractured consciousness. It's
Yes.
right.
Yes. Yes. Let me read this little oracle message because I think you're going to get goosebumps.
Okay.
It says, when was the last time you basked in the sun and allowed yourself to daydream, to imagine what might be and who you might become?
Whoa.
This feels totally related to that inner shining like the sun,
Yes.
and also the inward, like kind of yin energy of dreaming, the daydreaming part. It says, lizard spirit appears when you are called to let your imagination flow and dream something new. Inspiration is available to you now if you are willing to slow down and let your eyes close a little, allowing ideas to dance in your head. What might come into being if you were to pursue your dreams? How might you grow and expand if you allowed yourself to dare to believe in the impossible, making it possible first in your dreaming mind and then in the world as you co-create with spirit? Give in to the power of imagination, and soon your dream will become clearer. The steps will reveal themselves, and what was ephemeral will begin to coalesce into form. Dream it and be it. Spirit asks you to dare to dream big.
That's so powerful. Oh my goodness.
Anything you'd like to add to that one?
Well, I think that's what came to me as you're reading it. It's like the inward yin grounds the imagination to co-create with spirit,
Yeah.
right? And at the
Yeah.
center of that, we have this bright light
Mhm.
that is the energy with those dreams can actually become like real.
Yeah. And it makes me think of when you were talking about all the seeds lying dormant right now. Like, this is essentially that time to like bring those seeds in and let them just be.
Germinate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, so exciting. Well, cool.
Cool.
Oh, thank you
Yay.
so much.
Oh,
So
this is so
before
fun.
we wrap up, how can people get a hold of you? What's on the radar for you next year? If people are interested in working with you, like what's your jam?
That's my
What's your jam?
jam. Right. So,
I'll put your website in the
oh,
chat. But
that's
still.
great. Yeah, my website really, it's sort of, what's the word? Takes you through a journey of what, why I do what I do and how I help people. Um, my newest sort of, we're talking about dreams and what we're pulling in. I'm fairly active on Instagram, or at least I try to be, with tidbits of self-compassion and self-love, and really it's all about the inner light, just maybe not in those same words. But I am a creator of a program called Beyond Burnout, and it's a
Mm.
12-week program that helps women sort of reconnect with their vitality and sort of this inner state of bliss, and ultimately just the joy and the happiness. So it kind of takes us through the mind, um, the body, the mind, and then the heart, and how to really cultivate a heart-centered life and what that looks like. And that's launching again in the new year, the end of January. And so on my website, there's a little wait list to learn
Cool.
about the program and just kind of get it out there.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so, so much for joining us today. I
Thank
loved
you.
everything we talked about, and um, I know that I will be seeing you very shortly,
That's right.
very soon. So we should
Okay.
probably wrap this up.
You
And
bet.
thank you, everyone, for
Thank you.
joining. Please, if you like this, like and subscribe and follow everybody and share this with your friends and let us know what a big takeaway was for you today. So thank you.
Thank you
And
so much.
yeah, my pleasure. We'll be back next week with another episode of Midweek with Meaning. Bye.